Hello.
Hi. 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 Hi.
Oh my
Hi.
gosh.
Hey.
So I'm pretty sure the last time we recorded was September.
Oh gosh, are you kidding me?
So
Really?
the last time we recorded was September, but I'm positive there is at least 2 or 3 episodes that I didn't just never edited, and at this point they're not relevant anymore. So I'm
You
just
aren't
gonna
relevant
pretend they never.
anymore.
Yeah, you know what? You're right. So I'm just gonna pretend they don't exist.
Oh, that's
Okay, but I mean, I might go and listen to them and be like the lost files and like eventually upload them.
right. The lost
Um,
files and sort of give them historical context.
yeah, because literally, I mean,
It's one of them is about politics, and then the election happened, right?
okay, so the two-party system, we uploaded that, like
Oh.
that one went up, but the one after that, I think one of them, like we did like a really random one where it was like we were all over the place, and then
Oh.
I think we did like a mental health check-in or something with ourselves because like we were both struggling
Oh
because it
dear.
was
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
September. It feels like a lifetime ago
It really, really does.
because so much has changed.
Right.
Like, because last time we recorded, I think I was about to interview for the job that I got while I was still in Lubbock, but I hadn't gotten it yet, and I never
Mm-hmm.
uploaded that episode. So, like,
Jeepers.
a lot has happened since last time I uploaded,
Agreed.
i.e., I got a job, part-time job at a coffee shop in Lubbock, and it was
Mm-hmm.
great. I really, really enjoyed it. I loved it. I got to learn how to do latte art. I got to learn how to work an espresso machine. It was so great. Pig was bad.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, water under the bridge. I
And then you
loved it.
moved.
Yeah, and then so you know, lots of lots of stuff went down in November, and Tyler was like, "I'm not gonna get my job. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna do it. It's not gonna
Mm-hmm.
happen. They're gonna decide like they're not gonna hire new people. They're not gonna be able to do that." And he was like, "I know they're hiring right now." And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Okay, so if they're hiring right now, then it makes no sense for them to not hire you."
Yeah.
Because you worked there for 2 summers as an intern and they really liked you, and most of the people that worked with you had said that they want you on their team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like it doesn't make any sense for them to not hire you. But Tyler, we're two alike in this sense where we're sitting
Mm-hmm.
there going, the worst is going to happen.
Right.
But he ended up getting his job. We moved mid-December or early December really. And now we are in the Fort Worth Metroplex area.
Woo.
It is great. I still don't have a
Woohoo.
job.
That's all right.
I don't have a job in my own field. I actually don't have a job period right now. I'm gonna have to start driving for Uber Eats again, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I made it to round 3 of an interview process, didn't get the job. It's fine.
Oh.
I'm not bitter.
Oh man. Well, the interview process is important because you probably need to go through a couple of those. And so the fact that like yeah, that you're like going all the way through those is like a good sign, but it just would have been nice if that could have been the job that you got. That would have been amazing.
Yeah, and they kept saying like they seemed to really like me, and Tyler keeps saying like if you can get through the interview process, like you're going to get hired because he's like you interview really well. I'm like thank you very much. I try. For someone as awkward as me,
Yeah.
Arlie, you cannot have my coffee.
Oh, the kitty cat.
You like how her tail is right here?
Yeah. We have not introduced ourselves yet.
Oh yes, hello. I'm Kimmy.
And I'm Claire.
It's about 4 minutes into the recording, but it's fine. Hello, welcome
Like,
back.
how are you?
Yeah, welcome back to Anxiety, Depression, and the Real Questions.
Welcome.
It's been a hot minute.
Freaking back.
Yes. The biggest change since last time I posted an episode is the fact that I have Arlie with me again.
Arlie the baby.
Because and like since she's been with me for over a month again, it's like gotten back to normal, and I forgot that like she was ever not here.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, in Lubbock we had to.
Cat.
In Lubbock, she couldn't stay with me because the house we were renting had a policy against cats. But when we moved here, Arlie came with us, and the car ride was not fun for either of us. But she loves having her own domain again. It's great. welcome home, darling. Please stop whatever you're doing right now, though.
Kitty cat. Kitty cat.
A lot has changed.
Yeah, quite a bit.
Since last
Quite a
time.
bit.
Like,
Quite a bit.
like, you have a boyfriend.
I know, it's weird.
And also, I waited to bring this up for a very specific reason. Because we were supposed to record last night, but somebody blew me off for her boyfriend.
Well,
Which-
okay. Yes. Yes. I
Okay,
did.
so I'm like kind of bitter, but I'm also like screaming inside.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yes. It's a fair assessment. I mean, if we're wanting to be technical about it, sure. But like what it was I was working on homework. But okay. Because I hadn't gotten
boyfriend's
but like that's why it's still technical, which is why when you text me and you're like, "Did you blow me off just to like hang out with your boyfriend?" And I was like, "Well, okay, like kinda." Because not because like I'm admitting to it basically, but not because of what you think in the sense of like it's nighttime because we said we were gonna record last night, and I'm like, ew, Kimmy, I don't want to hang out with Kimmy. That's not what happened. It was that like I realized that I hadn't gotten anything done, but it's because like me and him didn't get anything done like homework wise during the day because we went on this really long walk. So like it was backwards in the sense of
long walk.
ew. No, he did. He lives on a
I'm
farm.
kidding. I believe you.
And so we were like, we went exploring in the middle of the day. And so then like that meant that like we were like, oh man, like we haven't gotten anything done. We should really like go hard on homework like tonight. And then I was like, ooh, crap. Like I really do need to do that. I need to text Kimmy kind of thing. I still could have made it work, but like, so there you go.
I'll forgive you. I'll forgive you this once.
Thanks,
I would like to point out that I
thanks.
never blew you off for Tyler.
Well, that's because, like,
I'm more loyal. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
You're right.
Yes,
You're
hello,
right.
Arlie. Please don't bite the headphone. Okay, she's gonna sit in my lap. I'm not mad. Hi, sweet girl.
Mm-hmm.
She's been warming up to Tyler lately too.
Oh,
I don't know
good.
if I told you this. Like, the last few nights she slept on his side of the bed, which traitor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What else is new
so
with you?
that's about it. I mean, like, I went home to Texas.
We did
saw
get to see each
you,
other in person.
but now I'm back in Michigan. And it's been good. Yeah.
I realized that I just realized I put the wrong date on my recording.
Well, that's all right. You can fix that later. Speaking of Tyler, and speaking of the boyfriend that I blew you off for, that is our topic for today's podcast.
Yes, today we're talking about how healthy relationships look different for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and this is something that, to me, it seems like a no-brainer.
Right.
Because I grew up around tons of healthy relationships.
Mm-hmm. Same.
Like my parents had their issues, like, which really in hindsight were not big issues.
Right.
But there was never a doubt in any of our minds growing up
Mm-hmm.
that they loved each other,
Mm-hmm.
like unconditionally.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also never a doubt in our minds, in our logical minds, because my depression mind thought differently, that they loved us unconditionally. Like,
Right.
I mean, I had like my dramatic teenage angst moments where I was like, you don't love me because you won't let me do what I want to do. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah.
But and mom and dad didn't really fight in front of us, which I don't think like there's this thing of like, should you fight in front of your kids? Should you not fight in front of your kids? Because I do think that they should know how you resolve conflict if it's healthy.
Right.
I think they should, like, kids should know it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
But Tyler did not grow up with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so weird for him to see my family dynamic.
Mm.
Because also for the last 9.5 years now, both of my brothers have been married.
Mm-hmm.
And both of my brothers, like, their relationships with their wives are so different, but they're both so, like, they're both very healthy relationships. They're both very loving relationships. And since we moved here, I mean, one brother is about an hour away. The other brother is about 30 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
And like Tyler has found his person, Patrick.
Mm-hmm. That's
like
cute.
he loves Patrick.
That's so cute.
They recently had their 4th kid. So they're 30 minutes away. And they mostly like Brienne, we went to see them when we first moved back and she goes, "You're the first adult I've seen in weeks." And I was like, I don't know if I or Tyler qualify as adults, but okay.
But okay. I guess in comparison to little children, you do.
Yeah,
Tiny
comparison to your little mini-me's that are like insane. I love them. And they're very well-behaved children. But children are insane.
That's true. That's true.
But comparatively, like, and this is like kind of a sensitive subject, but we spent a lot of time with Tyler's younger sister when we were in Lubbock. And there was one point when I was driving for Uber Eats, she was over at our house like all the time, which I loved. I loved having her over. I miss her so much now. It's so weird.
Yeah.
She was over every weekend. And now I sit on weekends and I'm like, this house is so empty.
I know.
Like, we're used to having a housemate and then Ashley coming over every weekend. Now we don't have either of those things. And it's just me and Tyler all the time. And sometimes I'm just like, I'm going to Target. And so like the times when he'll go in like to the office a little bit, I'm like, yes, I love you so much, sweet darling, but please go to the office.
Right.
I know you don't like getting up early and dressing up, but you look good.
Hey.
And also, please. But at one point I was driving for Uber Eats and she would go with me if she was over on the weekends. And she told me, she was like, you and Tyler are the healthiest example of a relationship I have in my life right now. And it kind of blew my mind because that's Tyler and I have a healthy relationship. I don't want to say like we're not healthy, but it's just because
the idea of you as newlyweds in all of your weirdness is her best example of a relationship is very sad.
It's very sad. Like it made me, it like warmed my heart, but I was also like, oh, sweetheart, like, because I mean, well, and it's gotten to where so many people like jokingly call me mom now.
Right.
Like
you're a mom friend.
I'm totally the mom friend, but like she jokingly
sure.
calls me mom. I have a couple of friends from streaming that call me mom. Like, but it was just, it's so weird to me because even though I was the mom friend growing up a lot of times, because I'm too much like my mother.
Yeah.
The people that I like mommed always still had good, like great parents. And like, I don't want to say she doesn't have good parents, but it's just like,
they're definitely
it's rough. It's a very complicated relationship. And so that makes it so weird to like see these relationships because she was like, yeah, I've never really seen like a truly healthy relationship like in action before. And I was like, man, because sometimes I'm not gonna lie, I'm sitting here like Tyler and I'll have like a little fight and I'm like, was this the right decision?
Right.
And it's like not even a real thought of like was it the right decision?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know exactly
because
what you're talking about.
When I'm like in a good place and like normal mind, I'm sitting there going, man, this is the best decision I ever made. Tyler is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
For sure.
I love him so much.
For sure. It's not like a real question, but like I know what you mean in the sense of every once in a while, like, and apparently this is super normal. Like, one of my favorite stories was like one of my dad's really good friends, telling him that, like, you know, everyone's like, newlyweds are always really excited. He was like, but there will be a point where you wake up in the morning and you look over to the other person and you're like, why don't you just go home? Like, what? Like, you just,
Oh my gosh.
like, you know, you just not in the bed, like, you know, and you're like, it's not like you don't want to be married, but you're like, go home, and you're like, wait, we are home, dang it, kind of thing. Like, you're gonna have that moment. And I think that that's so funny and so true. And so it's like,
so accurate.
but it's like, it's not, so yeah, it's not like, oh no, I regret getting married. That is not ever what it is, but like, it's such a huge change. One of the biggest changes.
Well,
and like, people are like, and relationships are hard in general, and also marriages get really like easily romanticized. LOL.
well, and you think about it, marriage also became this thing where it's like, I don't like you anymore, so let's get divorced.
Oh, I know.
And Tyler and I both went into this, like, we were very clear from the very beginning of our relationship of divorce is never going to be an option for me.
Right.
Like,
So
unless you do something exponentially horrible,
right,
like cheat on me,
right,
and it's irreparable,
right,
we are not getting divorced. And we both like made it very clear of like, that is not the kind of person, like the kind of people that we are, and all that stuff.
Yeah. Domestic violence, cheating.
Yeah, all of those things. And Tyler's so funny because like we would get into fights sometimes while we were still living in the house, and he's like, people are gonna think I'm abusing you, and I'm like, no, they're not, because you're not that kind of person.
Like, sweetheart, no.
Like, you're literally not the kind of person that would ever do that. But he gets so paranoid. He's like, I'm a white dude, and people will just think, and I'm like, sweetheart.
Oh, I know.
And we would like, when we were like joking around, we would laugh, and Quince, our housemate, and Ashley would be like, if anyone was going to be like physically abusive, it would be Kimmy. I was like, LOL. How dare y'all? How dare you say such a thing to me?
Come over here. Let me slap you for saying that.
But I mean, it's so funny because like for a while, and I've had to tell myself this more, like, healthy relationships do fight. Because when you love that person, emotions get high a lot faster, and you get hurt a lot faster because you care a lot more about what they say and think.
Yeah. And
for a while, I was so bad about, oh, if there's conflict, that means that we're not compatible. Or it's like, not even if there's conflict, but it's like, if we're fighting this much to this extent, and we fight like maybe once every few weeks. Maybe.
Right.
And it's really only like when both of us are super anxious or super depressed or something like that.
Yeah.
Or stressed. And it's like, no, that's not true, because that's not like, and when Tyler and I first started dating, which is, we broke up briefly about 6 months in, because he believed like relationships shouldn't be like easy, but you should never fight. Because he like grew up seeing like, oh, if you fight, then that's not a compatible relationship. Like, that's what he saw. And so that was something that we both had to work through, and that's something that even I have to work through sometimes. And it's like really funny because Tyler's like, but like originally he was like, you can't, like, once we're married and stuff, like it's between you and me only, and like, don't talk to other people, because like that was how he viewed relationships and marriage. And a lot of times, especially after we broke up, it was very difficult for him to talk to other people because they were not supportive once we got back together, which is understandable. I was acting very crazy because I was literally at a 15 on the anxiety scale.
Right. Yeah, that was a really weird time.
It was so weird, and like so many things were going wrong. Yeah. Like my air conditioning broke, and it was 100 degrees outside.
Yeah, I mean, I think with y'all, it was super interesting, and I think that this is kind of like what, like this discussion, kind of like the point of it is in many ways, is that like y'all both have these mental health struggles, right? And a lot of the time, the majority of the time, in fact, y'all's mental health struggles are like compatible in the sense of like you help each other and you care for one another in your like low points, because like
because a lot of times we're trading off.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of times you're trading off. Like you get real low and he gets real anxious, like that kind of thing, But then every once in a while they'll hit at the same time and they'll like hit hardcore. And so it makes everything seem more extreme, and seem more like awful because it's hitting at like, because y'all love each other, it's hitting at your weak points, all your weakest points, which is what makes relationships so hard, is because like we're asked to be vulnerable and show another person all of our like hidden little spots, and like then to have that just like sort of like go wrong in these couple of instances, like it's so terrifying and awful.
And I feel like as humans at this point in our society, we're so conditioned to believe that relationships are perfect.
Oh, I know. That like that's what's
Like,
going to be what fixes us.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, it will make, if anything, it might make stuff worse. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you're in it with another person through highs and lows. That's what makes it beautiful. But you're still you.
It's
hardcore.
It's so weird though, because like marriage is so weird, because like you go from being like just this one independent human being to being two independent human beings as one entity, but as separate entities, but as one
super
entity.
Strange.
And it's so weird. And like I'm telling you right now, like poor Tyler, but also like I feel like this is way more relatable than I realized before. Getting my name changed was such a big anxiety point for me because I had to talk to people. Like, it took me, I think it was October.
I see where you're going with this.
Before I got my name changed. I don't know if I see where I'm going with this, so I'm glad that you do.
Because in the sense of correct me if I'm wrong, basically, because I don't know if this is your point. Because like it took you a long time to get your name changed, and I could see maybe how that like, the word hurt is kind of strong, but like Tyler,
it worried him.
Like, it worried, yeah.
And like him. Not like in the sense of like, oh no, should we get married? But he was like, do you want to change your name? And I was like, yes. I literally already call myself Kimmy Witzel. All of my socials already say it.
Yeah.
That's
such a good example of like what y'all are talking about, like how y'all's anxiety stuff can hit at the wrong points, because he's like feeling like, hey, but just a little bit.
To change your name, but you haven't.
But you haven't done it, and you're over here like, my mental health refuses me to go out and talk to people. Oh, good Lord, kind of thing. And it's like not even. It's like so silly when you really break it down.
But they make it so complicated sometimes.
Really
with some stuff. I still have not gotten my passport changed, which I need to do.
Passport.
And I have finally changed all my bank accounts. Nice. So my name is actually accurate on my bank accounts, because that took me forever. Okay, because I went to go change my bank accounts because I thought they were going to be the easiest. And they're like, and one of my credit card was like, you have to have a copy of the marriage certificate or a valid driver's license that has the name change on it. I was like, well, I don't have either of those right now because I didn't have the marriage certificate back yet. So I was like, well, I hate you. But I was afraid that the social security, like my changing the name associated with my social security number, was going to be so complicated. Because usually you're supposed to go in and do it. But I think this is the one good thing that's happened thanks to COVID. Thanks to COVID, you don't go into the office. You literally just mail them a form that you fill out and then you're like your old social security card or something, and you mail it certified.
Interesting.
And require a signature, so like it's going to them. Like they like say on the website, like, we recommend you mail this certified,
right,
to make sure that like we get it, because this is like important documents.
Right.
And then you send your certified copy of your marriage certificate and all that stuff, and then like 3 weeks later you get your new social security card, and they change your name and everything like that. And then driver's license was actually really easy because right now most of the DPS offices and stuff are doing this thing where it's like only a certain number of people are allowed in the building at the time.
Mm-hmm.
You have to make an appointment, and I'm like, you should do this even when COVID isn't there.
Yeah.
Because we only had to wait for 10 minutes as opposed to 3 hours.
Yeah. What a
and
concept.
Yeah, I know, right? I got my address and my name changed in the same day, and it's super easy. Passport, I have to take a new picture because my old passport photo is over 6 months old, and I'm just like, oh, pictures of me, gross.
Also, where are you going to be traveling anytime soon? You know what I mean?
Like, and like my passport doesn't expire for another 7 years.
Right on.
And on top of that, passport photos have so many requirements that it's just really annoying. But that's the only thing I haven't changed now. I don't remember where I was going with this, other than the fact that it was just a lot of anxiety to get it done in the first place.
And like,
and
that's
I think
the kind of thing they don't tell you about, you know, like.
Well, and it's a good representation of how anxiety is.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, this is such a minimal effort thing.
Mm-hmm.
It really doesn't require that much like work at all.
Right.
I printed out forms and I submitted them, or I went and I stood for like 10 minutes and got it done.
Right.
But anxiety works like that.
Yes.
And it's
yes,
like
it
this little minimum effort thing, it makes you feel like you're going to die if you try to do it.
Yeah. I was thinking about, you know, like all this stuff, and I was like, okay. And I remembered like kind of how I was at the beginning of my relationship, which again, you know, like we haven't been dating that long. Who knows if it's going to work out? Oh, I know. Like it's a great time. But like basically it's not really about like the specifics so much as it is like these ideas that I'm kind of like learning about. And like he's wonderful, but like I've never really done this before.
Yeah, this is your first like real relationship.
I'm really learning a lot. So like I'm thinking about at the beginning, I was good. Like I wasn't anxious. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not anxious. And then I got anxious about the fact that I wasn't anxious. But like, and one of the things I was anxious about, or no, that's what it was. I got anxious about the fact that I wasn't anxious. So I was still low key anxious. But then at one point, one like morning or something, because I get kind of anxiety in the morning. That's always really fun for me because I'm like, first thing of the day. Yeah. You like wake up, you're coming out of sleep, and it's like, what if everyone who loves you leaves you? Kind of like, they're just like in your brain, like just like
so like, relatable. Though.
Good morning. And then I just like pop an anxiety med, and then we're on with the day. Anyway, so that's my life. One morning I woke up and I was anxious, and so I was like, oh crap, I hadn't been anxious. But now I am. That probably means that everything's going downhill. Oh dear, kind of thing. And what set off that anxiety was anxious about not being. It was just like this convoluted mess. So anyway, I ended up talking to one of my friends, and it's super interesting because she lives a kind of a crazy life. And so, but like she gives really good advice every once in a while. It's like she can like see through I mean that in the best way. It's like she can see through the crap and like in like 2 seconds. It's awesome. And what she said to me, and hopefully this will make sense, and I'll kind of like go into a little bit more. What she said to me is she's like, you can choose. Okay, so what that sort of meant to me is like I was feeling all that stuff about what you were talking earlier about, like, it isn't supposed to look like this. Like, fighting means that you're not compatible, or this means this, or that means this. Like, and you're trying to think like big picture, universe, God. What does it mean? What's the like the fate and the will and like, you know, like supposed to happen stuff. Like, you get really sucked into that, or at least I do, because that's a lot of how my anxiety manifests. And I still believe in all that stuff. I still believe in meant to be. But I am not like a slave basically to my own even emotions or like my anxiety or like if I feel bad on a certain day that means that like God is trying to tell me something, quote unquote, kind of thing. It's like, no. Like, I get to make a choice separate of those things that, like, I'm going to be in this relationship. And that's kind of the end, like, be all end all. And then if I want to make the choice to end the relationship, I can do that. I don't know if that makes sense because it's kind of subtle.
Well, no, because I mean, it's also that fighting are these like thoughts triggered by healthy brain or anxiety brain?
Healthy brain or anxiety brain. So basically, healthy brain is being like, you know, yeah, things are going to go maybe like weird some days and anxiety brain is going to take over. But my healthy brain has like made a decision that like, I like this person. I am going to date them. And we'll see how it goes. Like, period, kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
So like, then I can just interact and all of that stuff. And not everything is tied to this weight that I've attached it to, right? Because I've like kind of like made my choice. And like what she was saying is that with her relationship, yeah, like basically that like she chooses to love her boyfriend, kind of like the love is a choice kind of thing, rather than it just being a feeling, because it is all of those things, but it also is a choice.
Yes, because loving someone is hard sometimes.
Loving someone is hard, and so you can choose to do that as like an action rather than even when the feeling isn't specifically there.
It's like disgust.
Right. Well, like, you know,
Well,
and then you can go through there and like use all of your normal stuff, but like that being the foundation, and I was like, it's like a light bulb went off for me. So that's kind of like where I've been at, and I've been thinking about that as we've been talking.
One of Tyler's favorite things to say, and he doesn't say it as much anymore, but like, I don't even remember when this started, but like, it was this funny thing where it was like, sometimes I just have to love you a little bit more. It's like sometimes you're a little bit harder to love than others. And I'm like, isn't that so relatable though? Because it's like, if you think about it with like family and stuff, and I mean like healthy family relationships, not like toxic family relationships.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love my brothers so much.
Mm-hmm.
But like, growing up, I did not like them.
No.
I did not like them at all. Like, we kind of hated each other. It was that sibling love of like, I kind of hate you, but if anyone threatens you, I'll murder them.
Mm-hmm.
Like that kind of thing. And now it's so fun. It's so weird to me. Because like the three of us can be sitting in a room having a normal conversation. And I'm like, you haven't spit anything at me recently. Are you going to? When are you going to? I know that you still have it in you. But it's like, we're normal. We're all adults.
Oh.
It's so weird.
Yep.
No, because, so yesterday was my oldest brother's birthday. He turned 31. And I'm like, What?
31. Ancient.
What? I know, right? Well, my mom, and I laugh with my parents sometimes because I'm like, y'all are getting so old. I actually don't tell my mom that. I tell my dad that.
Right.
But it's also really weird because my relationship with my entire family has changed so much since I got married.
Mm.
In a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like they were treating me like a child before, but it's one of those like, you are an adult now, you are independent, you are on your own, you are a married woman.
Right.
Like,
that pisses me off, by the way. Not your family, but the idea in general, because my family, only one of my cousins is married, and it's the one older than me, so I'm like next in line, because I'm the second oldest cousin on like my dad's side of the family. And like they like include her in the planning group text. But not me, even though I live in a different state. I literally like have like moved away. I'm living a life, but it's like everything changed when she got married. And I'm like, listen, I'm a whole person, even if I'm not married.
I'm a whole ass adult, thank you.
But that's the thing is that I realize that I think that too. Like, I think about how, like, really for me, adulting really starts when you get married. But I think that that's messed up, and it's just hilarious, honestly.
But I think it's partially because you're kind of forced to grow up to a certain extent. Yes. And a thing for me though, I'm the youngest cousin on every side. Like, until recently, I was the baby. Like, my grandma, when she remembered me, would still call me the baby.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, once you get married, it's like, oh, well, you can't really call her the baby anymore.
No.
Because she's like 23 and married.
Husband.
Like, she's just married. Her last name is different, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was different for me because, like, I was literally the family baby.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even with cousins and siblings having children of the grandkids, you know, quote unquote, I was the baby.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but at the same time, you're sitting there and you're like, you know those old memes that would be like when you look for an adult and you realize that you are the adult? So you look for an adultier adult.
Yep.
Like, I still do that.
Yep. Like,
things happen and I like look at my brother and I'm like, you're more adult than I am.
Heck yes.
But in reality, I think you're more immature than me. In so many situations. Like, we all, like, Tyler and I and my brothers and even my sister-in-laws, we all have a maturity level of like a 5-year-old if you put us in the same room without their children.
Right on. Yeah, of course.
Like, and I went to Target this morning because I left my apartment before noon.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I bought Tyler Dino Chicken Nuggets because that's what he wants in life.
Naturally.
Speaking of, my mom got us an air fryer.
Yeah,
and it's changed my life.
Yeah, she did.
So awesome.
I agree about the adulting thing. I think that's almost one of the reasons why I was like nervous to even get in a relationship is because I'm like, I don't know if I'm like, I feel like sometimes the guy I'm dating, like he like is so like ready to be an adult, you know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, I don't know if I like, I'm pretty content in like my college life.
Hang on a second though. We're never ready to be adults.
No, I know.
No one is like ever ready to be adults.
I feel like sometimes I'm getting my PhD just because I'm like, I'm still a college student. I do homework. Like, I'm not ready to be like an actual full-grown human being.
I mean, that's why I got my master's, if we're being real.
Like, yeah, same. I mean, and so, but I'm just like, I'm taking it even one step further than the master's.
I can't wait for you to be
like adult child. Like, I'm going full on. Oh my gosh.
You're gonna finish your PhD and you're like, I'm gonna get another one.
Yeah, just like, what the heck? Ugh.
Well, like, being an adult is scary, okay? And not being in school anymore. So you don't have student loans, right?
No.
Yeah, you don't have any student loans. Okay, well, I'm tempted to go back to school because then my student loans, I don't have to pay them because they're coming due and I hate everything.
That's so stressful. Oh my gosh.
And that's the thing too. Healthy relationships are always going to fight. And my therapist has told me this. My mom has told me this. You've told me this. The number one fight that couples get into, especially newlyweds, is about money. Because it's stressful. It's how are you going to survive? It's how are you going to live? Well, Tyler didn't start work until last week, which means he didn't start getting paid until last week. Yeah. So we lived here from early December to now with no paychecks. Like, we were living off of savings and credit cards and stuff like that, which I've got my credit card higher than it's ever been, which is like terrifying to me. But I mean, what can we do? It's literally like, oh, we're using it to buy food.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, my I had saved up a little bit from my job at the coffee shop, but I was not paid well. Like I worked over 40 hours on my last paycheck, and I got $350.
Oh my gosh.
40 hours. And I got $350.
That is absolutely insanity to me.
Yeah. So
I can't even begin to comprehend that.
It's so crazy. And like we had to, I mean, our rent here is not cheap. But we didn't let our landlady know in time, and we didn't really mind because our rent at the old house was only $400. But we did not pay prorated rent there. We just paid the full rent. And then we got here and we had to pay, it was prorated, but then we had to pay the pet fee for Arlie, which came out to be $500 in whole. Yeah.
Ow, I've just been punched in the face by that.
Yeah. So all these expenses, and then it's like, oh man, how are we going to afford to eat? But also like, we don't have some of these basic necessities that we need for the apartment, so we have to go buy those.
I know. Y'all are doing the whole, like, y'all are trying to, like, make your home and make your life. And those things are exciting and those things need to happen. But, like, it kind of honestly really sucks that, like, while you're doing all of this, you're doing it with, like, this underlying stress of, like, not being able to afford it. And you know everything's going to work out. You know. But you're also like, are we being stupid? Are we like constantly? And like, you want to talk stress. And then the fact that like, and I feel like I know we've talked about this before, but like, basically getting married within itself is a big change. And so when you add, and moving is a big change just by itself. So try putting those two things together along with like everything else in the world, and y'all both have mental health stuff, like jeepers, basically it's a perfect storm of stress. So you guys, y'all just have got to be gentle with yourselves. You're doing the best you can.
And that's so hard to remember.
Because y'all are hard on yourselves. Y'all are really, really hard on
ourselves.
That's like your whole MO.
And it's also this huge change of, I was very used to interacting with multiple people a day. I was working in a coffee shop where we saw a couple hundred people a day. Like I would say, counting drive-through and all that other stuff. And I got very used to interacting with humans.
Yeah.
And someone was giving me a hard time once. They were like, if you're scared of people, then why do you work here? And I was like, because I need money. And like, yeah, humans are scary. Humans are always going to be scary, but I can't avoid human interaction forever. I won't, like, it's not how humans work.
Right.
And I also just don't like people. And they were like, well, you can't, why are you working in a coffee shop? And I was like, because I need
also,
money.
Like, I mean, I relate so much because, like, I like, sometimes I don't like people. Sometimes I do. I miss being around people, but then I definitely don't want to like go out into the world and like sit in a coffee shop and have like people like surround me. I'm like, you know, like
hissing at them when they walk by.
Yeah, like I don't want that, but like I don't know what I want, and I think that's like, I saw something, but I don't remember the whole thing, but basically like some sort of psychological study or whatever about like these small little tiny interactions that we have with humans and how important those are, and how COVID has like stripped some of that away a little bit, like how important it is to be like, oh, this weather, you know, like those little tiny like things. Eye
contact is a big thing. So Tyler looked into this for a while. Eye contact is a huge thing for humans, but Zoom has taken that away. We do not make direct eye contact through Zoom because
you're so right.
If you're looking at the person, then they see you like looking down. But if you're looking at the camera, then you're not looking at that person making eye contact. They can look you in the eye, but you can't look them in the eye.
Oh, that's
and so it's like
so
there's
weird.
never this direct contact. And
yep,
it's so weird. And this is another weird thing about getting married. Like I'm around another person almost 24/7.
Exactly, that's what I was saying.
But he's not actually another person. At this point, it's like you're me.
Yeah.
You are me. You don't count as another human. Therefore, I'm as tired of you as I am of me.
Right. It's so
And I
easy for
want
those
another
now to
person.
get like convoluted is because like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way. Like, I'm like, how much is it for me because I'm just in a dating relationship and not in a marriage? But even so, like we all need balance in our lives, you know? Like, so I was like, how, like, he's the only way really I'm getting any sort of like in-person contact with like, hello, another
Humans.
human being. And I was like, what if that ends up getting kind of messy to where it's like not balanced and he's like, you know, I was like, I don't know if it's good that like he's the only source. I've never been that way. I've always had like
Another human.
friendships and family, and but I'm like far away from all of that. And now I'm feeling like, is it healthy to just like pour all my energy into a boyfriend? And like, no. But like, you know,
The answer to this question, if anyone is actually wondering, the genuine answer to that is no.
no. But like, I can't. But like, the truth is that that's actually not what's happening. And also, the truth is like, who's figuring out anything? It's not like me and him are getting codependent or something. Like, it doesn't feel that way. But like,
If
I
there
just
is-
have to be aware that like it could, and so I need to be like, I need to watch out for that. Essentially, I could see it.
Listen, if there is one person in the world that will never become codependent, it is you.
What? Really?
Yes, because you need your freaking space. Because if you think about it, okay,
Mhm.
so like this is your first real relationship. You had like a semi-relationship last year,
Yeah.
which was a disaster in
Yeah.
all senses of the word.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for like originally encouraging it because I
No, it's
that
fine.
was such a bad
No,
idea.
it was a good experience. It was fine.
But like I remember this person, he like wanted constant contact.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of how you figured out you needed to be out of the relationship because you
I
were
was
like,
please
you were like,
stop.
I need you to not text me for the next like day and a half. And he was
Mhm.
like, I'm going to text you anyway. And you were like, no. Like, leave
You
me alone.
just
And even
crossed my boundaries.
like, I'm one of the few people that you won't be like, no. Because like, you just know that won't deter me.
oh yeah, right. Well, like,
Like, you
just
hate-
think, yeah.
Like you need your space. And like that was something that made our friendship and your friendship with most people work so well, because if you legitimately told me like, hey, I need to not be around other people the next couple of days, I'd be like, cool, see you in a couple of days.
Mm-hmm.
Like when we were still, doing in-person stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But he was not okay with that. He was like,
no.
if you don't want to be around me, that means that you don't like me.
You
That
don't
means
like
that you don't
me.
want that
And I
you
was
blah,
like,
blah, blah, blah.
well,
it's like,
at this
okay,
point, yes, that's
at
true.
this point,
because,
yeah, that's true.
like, you're annoying the heck out of me right now. Like, what are you doing?
Like, please stop.
Yeah. That's originally like with my current relationship, that's originally like what I was like, oh, this is so different and good, is because like he used to like chill. Like I remember I was talking to our friend Darren and I was like, he hasn't texted me in 2 days. It's so nice. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're cracking me up.
Well,
And I was
because like for
"Ah."
me and well, here's the funny thing though. Tyler and I like, so we used to text so much when we were just dating, and like not by the time we were about
I
6,
think
7 months
that's
in,
our
we did.
topic. Every relationship is different.
it's so
Everything
different.
is healthy. It's different.
And it's like it's so funny though because we like never text each other now. Occasionally, like we'll call each other occasionally, but like we
We're
text
like
each other
with
like
each other 24/7.
like get eggs while you're at the
Yes.
store, like that kind of stuff.
Mainly, y'all call each other.
Yeah, because we both prefer talking. It's so
See,
much faster. So for the
Nah,
both of us, we just feel like
not
it's so
me,
much
babes.
easier and
Not
faster
people.
to be like, hey, I need you to do this one thing than to like
Mm-mm.
type it out. Because
Mm.
he's a slow typer.
right.
And he's always like, how do you type so fast? I'm like, I don't know, my thumbs just move.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so funny to me because you're like, yeah, I haven't talked to him. I'm like when you were here,
Mm-hmm.
like you were like, yeah, I haven't talked to him in a couple of days, and I was like, Tyler and I, when we are not in the same location, we like over the summer when we were living
Mhm.
apart, we called each other every night. before bed.
Mm-hmm.
And
And for
I'm like,
y'all,
"How's your
exactly,
day?"
like and for y'all, it's a security thing. And for me, it's a security thing, even though they're opposite. Because, like, I want to be in this place where, like, I can be doing my own thing. And, like, I know that he's not, like, over there sitting there being like, oh, why is it like
Where is she?
that he's secure and that I'm secure and we're good. And, like, for y'all, it's like that same root thing, but, like, the way that it manifests is by talking all the time. That doesn't mean one of them is other, like, it's just different, you know? Like, it's so interesting to me.
And we've changed a lot. I think we've matured a lot because
Right. Well, yeah.
used to, we would, like, our first summer dating, because I was still in Lubbock, he was at his internship here. And we talked pretty frequently throughout the day. We would text. And now I'm just like, if he's not home on time, I'm just like, well, more time for me. And, like, it's so interesting now because he left. He went on a weekend trip to Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
Last weekend? I don't remember. I think it was last weekend. To see a couple of our old friends from Lubbock.
Mm-hmm.
And I talked to him like twice.
Mm-hmm.
He was gone for like a day and a half, 2 days. We talked that evening that after he got there. Like, he texted me to let me know that he got there.
Mm-hmm.
And then we talked that evening. And it's so funny because, like, we had not slept separately since we got married.
Mm.
So that aspect was really strange.
Yeah.
Like, sleeping alone for the first time in months, I was like, this is really weird. I don't know how I feel about it. But at the same time, I was like, ooh, I can do whatever I want. I mean, at this point, I can do whatever I want anyway. He's like, yeah, you want to stay up and watch YouTube all night? I don't care.
Oh, I know.
Like, he'll come in and be like, you should probably go to sleep.
Yeah.
And I, like, do that to him. He'll be like in here playing video games. I'm like, you have to get up at 6 a.m. to go to work. You need to go to bed right now.
Oh my gosh, I know. So my mom is so funny. She, like, when my dad goes out of town, she'll be like, haha, and she'll, like, stay up really late because they never stay up late. She'll stay up really late and, like, sleep in. And, like, that's the first night, and she's like, woohoo, party. and then the next night she's like, I can't sleep. It's just so weird. Like, she's like she feels all this empty space, and she's like, and then, like, she'll hear a weird sound at night, and she's like, oh no, and, like, so she has trouble sleeping for the rest of the time. So it's like one night she's like, party. Rest of the night she's like, when is he getting back? And I think that that's adorable.
I think it's hilarious. Well, and it's funny too because recently, so we moved here without a couch, but we ended up getting a couch, which is actually a very comfy couch.
Very comfy couch.
So, like, I'm an advocate for Facebook Marketplace.
I can speak highly to the couch as it was my place of rest when I visited you.
Yeah, you slept on it. Quinn slept on it. Like, great couch.
Love it.
We do not have a TV in our room. We have the projector that we got.
Mm-hmm.
That projector, like, it's nice. We have a Fire Stick hooked up to it. It's really great. But it's very loud. Like, the projector itself, the fan in it is so loud.
Gotcha. That's super interesting.
And I need noise.
Right.
So, like, I usually fall asleep to YouTube because that's just how I am.
Mm-hmm.
And quite a few nights the last few weeks, I've had trouble, like, falling asleep. Like, I basically pulled a Tyler and, like, my brain just would not shut up.
Mm-hmm.
And so basically he needed to go to bed because he was going to work. So I went in the living room and I turned the TV on and I would fall asleep on the couch. And I remember my mom doing this a lot growing up, and it was never because my parents weren't getting along. It was just like mom couldn't breathe, so she needed to sleep in the recliner because, like, she was all stopped up. And she didn't want to keep him awake, or, like, my dad was snoring too loud, or like something like that.
Yeah.
And so that was so normal to me. And it's so funny because, like, Tyler and I joke about, like, oh, you're going to sleep on the couch tonight.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, and in reality, I'm like, yeah, it's cute. You think that you'd be able to sleep without me next to you. Right? So it's cute. Like, it's cute. You think you're going to not sleep next to me. And it's so funny because I was afraid that I was going to hurt his feelings when he woke up and I wasn't there.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I was like, he'll be fine. And so the next day, I would come back to bed around like 5 or 6. I would wake up and I'd go back to lay in bed. I'd be like, okay, I'm tired enough. I can go lay down. And he was like, I didn't hurt your feelings, right? Like, you're not mad at me? I'm like, no. And he's like, okay, good. He's like, I figured you just couldn't sleep. And I was like, yeah, I didn't want to keep you awake. He's like, okay, cool. And he rolled back over. Go to sleep.
Nice.
He's like, you're not mad at me? We all good. Because we've been trying so hard to get better about communication.
Mm-hmm.
Because communication is like, we are both people who bottle things up and then explode.
I know. Like I could speak to how like, yeah, you know, clear communication, all this stuff. But then literally yesterday I was struggling with this in my relationship. Like where he said something and it messed with me. And I was like, but see, that's the thing. How do I say that without because I know it's not a big deal. But like now I'm thinking about it a lot. And now the fact that I'm thinking about it a lot, now it feels like I'm like hiding something by like not saying it. But I also don't want to say it and make it be like that she's been thinking about this whole time. It must have been a really big deal because it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so now I'm like, I'm trapped. And I was like, oh, this is hard.
Well,
so now I get it. I never got it before. Now I get it.
It's so funny too because now Tyler and I can laugh about this because this was like literally this was actually a month ago now because we've been living here for over a month. I've always had a bad back since I was a kid. Gymnastics screwed it up. And the last couple of weeks I was working at the shop, it was getting kind of bad. But the move killed my back. Like walking hurt, sitting hurt, anything but laying down in bed hurt so bad. Like it was literally getting to the point where I was walking like bent over. Oh yeah. Like I could not straighten up the entire way. And I hadn't been to the chiropractor in years because my old chiropractor was in my hometown. I never found one in Lubbock because I loved the one in my hometown so much. But I finally gave in and I found like second or third day here, I found a chiropractor. Went a couple of times, starting to feel better. My back was starting to feel better. And this is like probably one of the dumbest fights that Tyler and I have ever had. But we both felt so justified. And my mom was like, well, yeah, you are both justified, but suck it up. We were like having like one of those stupid little like fake fights where we were like joking around and he tickled me and I jerked and it pulled my back out again. And so then it hurt super, super, super bad. And the next day, because this was like late at night, the next day I woke up and I was like, okay, so I'm like a little bit upset. So what I need to do is I need to let him know what I'm feeling so that I'm not sitting and festering on this all day. I need to just let it out, put it out there, and then we can move on. This was also, we still had stuff like in his truck and he moved it all inside. And like I chose the worst time to tell him. Like I still stand by, like I just needed to get it off my chest. And I think that was justified. But it's like he was justified for being frustrated because he was like, every time your back hurts, it's so convenient. Because like it was like whenever he needed help with something, my back hurt. And he comes in from unloading stuff because he was going to go to the gun like shooting range with Patrick that day. And I was like, I want to tell you, like I am frustrated with you because of what you did like caused a chain reaction. Like I'm not mad. I'm just frustrated. This is a thing that's
getting it off my chest.
So getting it off my chest to not let things fester. And he goes, "Are you kidding me?" And he got so angry. He's like, "You're blaming me?" And I was like, "I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying that something you did was a contributing factor to why I'm frustrated with the fact that this is
and I'm trying to work through it. Yeah.
And I'm trying to not hide anything of frustration."
I love it. That's so classic.
Left so mad. Like he left so mad. And I was like, well, I'm mad too. I'm mad because you're mad at me. And I don't think you should be mad.
Oh, this is so classic.
So I
love
literally
it.
called my mom, and my mom is so funny because Tyler expects her to like just side with me because she's my mother, and I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, mom is literally the mom that if I got,
she's
like,
gonna
you
call
know, some
out.
moms, you know, like some moms, like if you got convicted of a crime, they'd be like, oh no, my daughter didn't do it.
Oh no,
My mom would be like, my mom would be there being like, yeah, put her in jail. My mom would turn me in.
Oh yeah.
She's like the kind of mom that she's like, you did something wrong, you're gonna spend time for it.
Yeah.
You're gonna save time for it. So she's like, yeah, you're justified because your back hurts and all this other stuff. She's like, but you've got to remember that he doesn't realize just how bad your back hurts.
Yeah.
She's like, he's never experienced your really bad back pain. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
How
he
bad
doesn't
it
have
is.
the context.
And and he also doesn't, like, his pain tolerance is different. Everyone's pain tolerance is different. Everyone experiences pain differently.
That y'all are figuring out over time, and it's like mid a stressful situation, all that stuff. Yeah.
And it's also like humans experience things differently. Like, I saw something not long ago that was like, just because you've been through worse, it does not invalidate other people's pain.
Oh yeah, that's such a good.
And that's something that Tyler, he admits he struggles with it because he had such a hard time. Like, his growing up life was like, it was rough. Like it was rough. Like, you can't like honestly say it wasn't. It was a hard life growing up, especially compared to like what my upbringing was. And so something will happen. He'll be like, get over it. And I'm like, no, I'm going to cry.
Right.
And he, like, it's so funny because he'll be like, what does crying fix? And then I saw something again that was like, we don't cry to fix, we cry to release. Sometimes we literally just need to cry to let it out. And he's like, and he'll be like, crying is so unattractive. I'm like, thank you so much. I'm still going to cry.
Right.
I'm going to cry even more now because now you called me unattractive and it hurt my feelings.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, I know we're married and you're not going anywhere, but now you've hurt my feelings, and so I'm gonna cry.
It's like, let me just cry real quick.
Which is so funny because when I was like junior high school, I was like, crying is a sign of weakness and I will not do it. And now I'm like, something small happens and I'm like, I'm gonna go cry now.
Yeah, it's good. It's a release of emotions.
But I think it shows. Can you hear the train in the background? Okay, cool. I don't know. Sorry, we live like right next to train tracks.
Also, we probably need to end pretty soon.
That is true. But yeah, this is just kind of, I mean, this is just us talking about our experiences with relationships. And I think the thing that we can kind of take away from this is that relationships are hard.
So hard.
Even in the easy times, they're hard.
Even in the easy times, yeah.
Because
humans are hard. Humans are complicated, man.
Humans are so complicated. Like, I remember the beginning of Tyler and I's relationship, like, I kind of had the same, like, I'm not anxious, so I'm kind of anxious about not being anxious. And I remember my brain would, like, look for things to, like, be like, oh, I shouldn't be in this relationship.
Right, exactly.
And it was always like, but what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? What if this goes wrong? What if this goes wrong? And my mom finally told me, she was like, she's like, yes, relationships, especially the beginning of a relationship, the beginning of a serious relationship, are scary. It's scary.
Yep.
And she was like, but if you aren't willing to go through those risks and experience those things, then you'll never be able to, like, find real happiness. Because going through the scary things, that's part of what makes, like, it's part of what makes relationships worth it. Because like, something will happen. Like, the other day, I don't even remember what I was doing, but I was like sitting there and I was like, man, I'm so glad I have time.
Yep.
Like,
that's sweet.
he like sometimes is like, are you sure, like, this is what we wanted to do? I'm like, I cannot picture my life any different than how it is right now.
It's done deal.
Like, being married to you, I can't imagine my life differently now. Like, it's so weird to me to think that there is a time when we were not married, even though we've only been married for, like, 5 months.
Yep. Agreed.
So it's just
love it. Well, good talk.
Here's your therapy session for the week.
Here's your therapy session for the week. Yeah. Well, this has been our podcast.
This has been our comeback after 4 months, 3 months,
Strong
however
comeback.
long.
Nice.
Yeah. Thank you
Thank you
for
for listening.
listening. If you liked it, I'm going to be that person and be like, consider subscribing, because this is something like that we like. We like talking about, we like doing. We're going to try to keep up with it a little bit more now.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, if you have thoughts or comments, like you can comment or like, yeah. Because
for sure.
we love this kind of thing.
We do.
We like other opinions.
We do.
Yeah.
There you go.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Here we go.
Bye.